Hi, guys. Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 4 now, I guess, of Mind Body Medicine with Dr. Ariel. You can catch me every first and third, Monday, Thursday, right here live on PRN. I'm just going to give everyone a minute to settle in here, grab water or tea. I myself have been sort of routinely running about 10 minutes behind today. And everyone that I was late for was also. So just giving everyone ample time to tune in here. But I will go ahead and start out with a question because we're going to continue finishing up our talk from Monday on gratitude, and then we'll go into today's topic. But I would love to hear from y'all about any ways maybe that gratitude has either impacted your recovery, or maybe if it hasn't yet, how could it enhance that journey? What are some things that you could do to really just reflect upon and help enhance your journey towards recovery? I'm really curious because for me personally, that gratitude journal was pretty life-changing. Let's see here. And then I also, wanted to make a note to apologize to you guys because I accidentally lied to you. I didn't lie. I was going to be there live in person today. Some scheduling things ended up shifting around at the last minute. So I'm back home in Greensboro now, which is fine. I'm lovely to see you guys, but I just didn't want to accidentally stand anyone up. So if you're there, I'm sorry. And next time I will make absolutely sure that I am there in person with y'all ready to roll. Not next class, though, just when I'm back in town. If you remember, I live in Greensboro. So I will give you ample notice, I promise. So let me go back to the word of the day here. We'll start with that. Spanish word of the day is naturaleza. Naturaleza. That means nature. We're going to kind of talk about nature and nurturing, not necessarily one versus the other. It's a this and situation, right? So really talking about both. So I figured naturaleza, nature, is a nice starting point, really. Let me just see if anyone. Ariel! Hi. Oh, Ariel. Sorry, I have to remember. Ariel is the lovely person who I've been working with at PRN, helping me out. And her name is Ariel, and I'm Ariel. So unless you phonetically say it, it can be confusing as to who we're talking about. But yes, that is our word of the day. And we're talking about gratitude, how that's impacted our recovery. This is kind of just a carryover. I'm going to go maybe 10 minutes just into finishing up with gratitude, specifically in the context of recovery, because I found some pretty cool statistics and stuff that I wanted to share with y'all, and I didn't get a chance last time because we had so much to talk about. So, all right. So I'm just pulling up some of my notes. I like to have some studies available because in my world, in the medical world, right, if you make an assertion, people are like, where did you read that? What journal is that published in? So yes, basically there are a lot of different types of recovery, as we all know, right? There are so many things that life throws at us, really, that we need to, recover from in one way or another, right? But substance misuse is one of the most common implications that we're looking at here. And it showed that practicing gratitude can develop your strengths and your resources that people can call on sort of in that journey toward a healthier life. Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital even found enhanced recovery from coronary disease, like coronary events, meaning like heart attacks, the atherosclerosis, the clogging of those arteries. The recovery time was drastically shortened. They found improved quality of life. They found lower depression, lower anxiety, and they actually were finding ways to approach their recovery with gratitude, more of, hey, I had a heart attack, but I'm here, instead of, oh goodness, my body's failing me. So I thought that was really interesting. And then there was another article by Edmonds and McCullough. I like them just because I'm a mindfulness research nerd. But they had an article called Counting Blessings versus Burdens. It was like this really cool experiment that they set up looking into gratitude and our subjective well-being. So there's objective, which is something that you can just stare at. It's like, this is a Post-it. Objective. Okay, subjective is how something makes you feel, right? So it's a little trickier to quantify, But they basically were exploring the emotional and the interpersonal benefits of gratitude. And they did 3 different studies basically where they had participants, who wrote in a gratitude journal, who did nothing, and then they had their control group. But these 3 studies were pretty monumental in the field of neuroscience and positive psychology and mindfulness. And really, they laid kind of the groundwork for all of that, for the subsequent research, which is a booming field now. And it's steadily gained momentum ever since, with good reason. And let's see, I'm just going to check in on y'all. Hey, Alan. Yes, sure want to see you in person. Glad to see you on screen. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. There's a mindfulness center in Charlotte. Ooh, I'm going to have to check that out. I miss Charlotte so much. I lived there for only a couple years during residency, and I'm dying to get back. I'm just itching to move back to the area because there's so much cool stuff and resources that y'all have. So that's amazing. That's another one I'll have to check out. Thanks for sharing. And then just wrapping up the gratitude, I wanted to share with you this book. This is called The Happiness Advantage. It's by Sean Anker. I was looking for my copy, but I cannot find it for the life of me. But MaMatt Health, actually, speaking of residency, they every year have like I don't want to call it a book club, but it's like they give everyone in the hospital system a free book. And it's usually based on just some like life philosophical thing. Like there's Atul Gawande, Being Immortal. That's a really famous one. But The Happiness Advantage, I liked way, way, way more. But it's basically like the principles of positive psychology. And he just kind of breaks them down into into 7 basic pillars or tenets or whatever. So if you wanted to read that book, it is just so feel good. It's one of those books that I can just kind of pull up and open to a page and read my highlighted notes and just get excited all over again. Because if you read, well, we all read, right? We're on our computers all the time. In some way, we're reading something, right? So to be able to just sit down and focus on pure happiness is a blessing. It's really wonderful. And I'll go into just the super basics of the pillars, but the first is the advantage of happiness. The happiness advantage, the title of the book, makes sense. So it's training your brains to focus on the positive by employing the other positive psychology principles. Sounds basic enough, right? Then he talks about a fulcrum and a lever, which it took me a minute to like wrap my mind around it because I'm not a handy person at all. But basically moving the fulcrum, which is our mindset in this case, in the right direction, we exert a lot more power than when moving the lever. So yeah, I remember now the physical diagram of that, but I'm not going to try to bore you with mapping that out. But then he has what's called the Tetris effect. So it's like the game Tetris where things are sort of just literally falling into place, but we're also training our brains to look for these positive patterns, right? Like those shapes that fit together, the colors that fit in the right dynamic. And we're training our minds to observe and seize opportunities. The fourth is falling upward. Basically, the individual thinking that her behavior can still have a positive impact on her life, and she can take small concrete steps to demonstrate that accordingly. Then there's the Zorro circle. I like this one because I literally think about the Mask of Zorro, where he's like in a circle with all these, obstacles and things that he has to fight. And basically, it teaches us that when we are faced with crisis or a threat, we can control our emotions by focusing on small, manageable goals and little tasks that we can immediately handle. And you just sort of compartmentalize. One of my favorite old adages is, how do you eat an elephant? And you're like, what? How do you eat a whole elephant? And the answer is, one bite at a time. So that's what the Zorro circle is about. Just small, manageable, but measurable tasks. Sometimes I hope I'm not the only one who has had days where it feels like an accomplishment just to wash my hair. Yeah. But that is a small, measurable goal. And at the height of my depression, that was a big victory. And so I still celebrated it. Okay, number 6, 20-second rule. Basically, small tasks that are easier to achieve are a great place to start when it's forming a habit. So we kind of talked about that on Monday as well. And then your last one is social investment. Social support networks are one of the most reliable predictors of future success, 100%. So basically invest in your relationships, invest in enhancing them. It does take work. I think that once I was an adult and out of school where I was constantly exposed to my friends, I was like, oh man, you have to like call people and like text them and let them know you're thinking about them. And it was just part of growing up. But if you remember, I essentially didn't have parents past the age of 17. And so I was like, okay, well, yeah, I got to nurture what I do have, right? So I did. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you on the topic of gratitude is just a resource here. And this is through the University of California at Berkeley. This is the Greater Good Science Center. Anything that you are curious about, you should follow them on Facebook. Actually, anything they post is just something positive and like research based and just really fascinating. And they're like one of the OGs of the mindfulness movement. And so, yeah, they say it's science-based resources for a compassionate and resilient society. Like I said, it's just a phenomenal amount of information. Tons of my talking points I get from there too. So definitely worth looking into. And no disclosures there either. I did not found that group or anything. All right, so we can get back into today's topic. And I'm gonna check up on the chat here. Hi. All right, perfect. So I titled this one, Letting Nature Nurture, because it's essentially talking about what our bodies and what our minds can learn from the world around us. And it seems so simple, but sometimes easier said than done. So, where to begin? Basically, I am suggesting the radical idea that humans live in alignment with nature, that we follow their lead, essentially. And that we live a life without filters, no pretense, totally authentic, totally transparent, just being ourselves, our natural selves. Nature does not ask for permission to be who it is. It knows what it's meant to do, right? So I definitely think that's kind of where this whole thing is coming from, is how to embody nature, how to work with it, not against it, both within your body and your mind and the world around you. So basically, I almost called this life, forget your filter, something like that. But I figured nature nurture sounds a little better. But yes, forget your filter, because they work both ways, right? We can filter out the bad, but we can also view things in a negative light and become that self-fulfilling prophecy that we talked about. So yeah, we'll just talk about different ways that nature filters, how we can filter good and bad. And yeah, we'll dive right in. So for starters, let's start with what I know best, right? The human body, anatomy, physiology, all that good stuff. Your body, whether you realize it or not, is actively detoxifying 24/7. Your urination, your defecation, your sweat, your digestion in general, everything is a constant process of rebirth and restarting and detoxing, right? We have vital organs. We literally call them vital organs because we need them to live. And you know why? Because they get rid of toxins. Your liver is your number one. Your liver and your kidneys are going to process your toxins. We have a spleen, which can filter out the unhealthy blood cells when we're battling an infection. We have our nose, which filters out the dirty air particles to maximize the oxygen intake. Even your throat is sort of a filter between your mouth and your stomach, right? And actually, funny aside of thinking of the nose being a filter, this was so obvious to me that the very first time I went to Italy, I was outside the entire day and there was a lot of traffic and I was just breathing in apparently a lot of smog and pollution. And I got home to the hotel and blew my nose. And it was black like snot. And I was just like, oh my God, I thought I was going to die. I was like, I need to go to the emergency room. And the chaperone that was on the trip was just like, oh, you've never really been in pollution, have you, dear? So I was like, oh, all right. Well, I also have asthma, so I'm sensitive to that, but it's fine. But yeah, our body is one big filter. That's how we survive. Like peeing and pooping are the two vital functions you can't live without doing, because those toxins will literally accumulate and kill you. And, you know, we have to figure out how to detoxify our thoughts sometimes too, because if you let it build up too much, it can turn into scary situations. I've witnessed it firsthand. So yeah. Now I'll move on to I'm going to give some cool examples from nature. You know, I love fun facts and I love nature. So how nature does this. First of all, think about the rainforest. You have a giant canopy of trees that gives shade from the sun so that other plants that need less light can thrive and below, right? And there are different levels in the canopy of where each animals live. It's really cool. It's like essentially a high rise where each level is different animals. It's fascinating. But everything has a purpose and works in harmony when humans aren't actively destroying it. Another example, whales. I love whales. It's one of my big obsessions. Really any sea life. I'm always scuba diving or in water if I can be. Mermaid. But whales, filter feeders. And what I mean by that is they take in like gallons upon gallons of water, and then they naturally, physiologically filter out the nutrients that they need, the phytoplankton and any fish, you know, whatever. And then they put back the water that they don't need to survive. And it's really fascinating. Sharks are another good example. And I'll tell you in particular why in a second. But if you've ever seen a shark in the ocean, you'll notice there's dozens of teeny tiny little fish on their bellies. And this serves a dual purpose here. The fish keep the shark's skin healthy and fresh, and I guess it probably feels nice too. I don't know. And the fish get nutrients from the shark, and they just travel together and they peacefully coexist, and it's this beautiful relationship, and this is called symbiosis. I feel like if you took biology, you probably heard it at some point, but symbiosis. Basically this mutually beneficial result for both parties that keeps the world turning. Another thing we can learn from, right? This is why community is so vitally important in humans. I do not care what any hyper traumatized, naysayer, independent person says. And I can say that because I was that person forever, like for a long time. But no matter what anyone says, people need each other. We need each other. I know that's not a great thing to say. I used to be really averse to like admitting that I need my partner. I need them. I thought it was weak, and it's not. It's not at all. Like I've got so much stronger through leaning on others and realizing that I do in fact have hands to catch me if I fall, even if I don't have parents to do it. So we need each other, got to take care of one another and look out for other people. And it benefits us both, right? The human interaction, the support, it's give and take. I mean, we all have some one-sided friends, right? I'm not talking about those, but those really good, meaningful relationships. And yeah, it's community. This is what I said last week, is that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is community. Do you know in Japan, they will literally let like preschoolers take the subway alone? They can go all by themselves on the subway. They got their little carts. They do it all. Why do you think that is? It's not because they're little baby geniuses. It's because as a society, as a collective, Japan sort of seems to have this understanding that really the elders protect the young, and whether or not they know them, you don't have to. It's just doing the right thing. So you don't even bat an eye, but you'll certainly make sure no one bothers a preschooler on the train. And actually, that reminds me, oh my gosh, my aunt was was telling me about something she read about Japan, and apparently the highest demographic of people that are incarcerated in jail, it's actually the elderly. It is the elderly, not because they are, behaving unscrupulously, but because they commit petty theft to get themselves back to a community, right? I mean, as a society, Americans are terrible about that, right? Like, we don't necessarily respect or revere our elders in the best way. And I think it's just amazing to hear that they would rather be in jail with guaranteed food, water, shelter, and community than all by themselves, watching TV or and I can understand it as someone who lived kind of as a hermit for a year, pretty much, and not because of COVID. This was kind of pre-COVID, actually. I definitely can see how that can, send you into a depression when you just withdraw and don't have that connection and that meaningful guidance. So yeah, I thought that was a very fun fact about Japan. I'm checking in on the comments. Adam says, it's amazing how differently people can react to a thing or a sentence depending on how they filter receive the info. 100%. Yeah. And we're all guilty of this, right? We're always going to have some kind of a filter. You can't have nothing, right? It's just not human. But at the same time, we can recognize when we're having it, realizing, am I really mad about this or am I mad about this? How am I filtering it? You can filter a person just by a circumstance. Like right before I came on here, I was annoyed that my wedding invitations are going to be like 2 weeks late delivered. First world problems, I know. But I'm a last minute planner, and that really got to me and stressed me out. And I had to like zen myself down and like recognize what I was doing and be like, I'm not about to like filter out my PRN experience. This is the best part of my week. Like, I'm not about to filter it and be like, I don't want to do it because I'm so stressed out and I'm going to have a nervous breakdown because my wedding invitations didn't get here. Did I want to say that? Sure. But I mean, obviously I love you guys and it's about commitment in the first place. But I was like, no, you know that this is exciting for you. And what happened is external. Let it go, leave it behind and move forward. And you know what? Feeling way better. I had to take off my filter and get out my laptop to talk to you guys. And that's all the therapy I needed. Alan studied anatomy in art school in NYC. Oh, that's interesting. I guess you wouldn't think necessarily with art school, but if you're painting the human form, of course, you would painting or sculpting or drawing. I know there's a ton of different media, none of which I am talented in, but that's really cool, Alan. Adam says, like from Finding Nemo, fish are friends, not food, said to the mean shark. Gotta love Finding Nemo. And yeah, hard part of COVID has definitely been the disappearance of in-person communities. I know, I miss that. And that's why I was so excited to be with y'all in person today, but that I will make that happen, I promise. It's gonna be a priority. And we got Roberta joining us. Hello, welcome. And Brooke, hi Brooke. Good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. So we finished up about gratitude, and now we're talking about how we can learn from nature, how we can incorporate the rhythms and the behaviors of nature to benefit us and to benefit others around us and the world ultimately. So another type of filter that we have as humans, aside from our liver and kidneys and our body that does it naturally without thinking, is our brain. Right? Your brain filters out trauma, there is a phenomenon called, I don't even know if this is the title, but it's an emotional blackout. And a coping mechanism for trauma is very commonly to just black out as though, you had a super crazy night out, and you just don't even remember it. And I realized through doing therapy how much repressed memories I had, really, and everything started coming back, and I was like, I'm remembering things I didn't even know happened. It's kind of wild, and it can be beneficial. It can protect you. It can stop you from making the same mistakes twice. It can teach you when to leave a relationship with a person. There's any number of good things that can come from it. My encouragement to you is how to handle that, how to move the fulcrum, right, on that happiness lever, so it's just a little easier and a little more natural to see things for what they are and notice your response to them and just take note without judgment. So another filter, I think, is our ego. I think that's probably the biggest filter, right? Everyone has an ego. It exists. I try to keep mine as small as possible, but it's there, right? We've all got it. But what our ego sometimes wants to do is to set up artificial filters in your mind. And I'm thinking like literally an air filter that you put like on your AC, like a literal filter. That's what I envision here. I should have gotten one out for like show and tell. But when we put that filter over our eyes, we're sheltering ourselves. Don't ever challenge me. Don't hurt me. Don't make me feel uncomfortable. Push me out of my comfort zone. Then it's a little detrimental. It stops our self-growth. Or I shouldn't say stops. It sort of just slows it down, right? Because if you're never challenged, if no one ever expresses different ideas to you, how do you grow and mature? I personally love to be challenged. I love having my mind changed. I love it. I mean, there are a few things that I'm just like obviously medical things, like if it's another doctor, okay, I'll listen. But if someone is challenging me about a medical thing, I'm just kind of like, okay, like, all right. But at the same time, like you don't have to have that, I don't know, that haughtiness, I suppose. And then there's also what we call confirmation bias in psychology, which can be really hard to overcome. And confirmation bias can almost be synonymous with filter, kind of. So confirmation bias is essentially, okay, I'll start with an example. So let's talk about the debates on COVID precautions, right? Like what's good, what's bad, what do we need to do? And this is not to get political, but we as humans have such strong filters subconsciously, we don't realize that every piece of information or article that we see on our social media, on our news platforms, however you digest your information, is going to align with whatever you think. You know, if someone is completely in favor of every safety ideal and full masks and distancing and get your vaccines, then you're going to automatically see those and it's going to assimilate in your brain to reinforce it. Whereas anything else, contrary information, gets filtered out and dismissed. And this is something that occurs without us realizing. The same with our filters. We don't necessarily realize that we have them. And I still don't know all of my filters. Like I told you, I had a filter right before I came on here where I wanted to be a grumple butt, as Jane would say. And I just wanted to like, you know, essentially go and like just be mad because, you know, someone else's mess up influenced my planning. I was being petty. We'll just say that. But I didn't realize I was doing it until I paused, until I stopped, took a step back. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we can't do that. So like I said, sometimes those filters can be good. Let's talk about some good filters. I personally have post-traumatic stress disorder. I cannot watch anything scary or traumatic. I will literally close my ears. I will close my eyes. I mean, I try not to watch it to begin with, but sometimes the movies are a surprise, right? You can't predict everything. So when that comes up, you will literally see me do this and sort of get kind of in the fetal position. It's very strange. But I don't want to watch it, hear it, experience it, nothing. Because it's extremely triggering for me. And I don't enjoy feeling scared. So in my mind, why waste my limited screen time feeling a negative emotion? Like I know some people are super into that stuff. I'm not knocking it. It just personally terrifies me. So protecting your mind and your heart from things that don't fill it, that's okay. From things that could be damaging, that's okay. You can create your little bubble around yourself. You can be the boy in the bubble if you want to filter out the negativity so you can protect yourself and keep your space sacred. Social media is a great example. Like I only have things on my homepage that are from like really close friends and family. And then it's only positive news articles, only thought-provoking stuff. It's just nothing but positivity. And if people write something that I don't agree with, I simply unfollow them. I don't engage. I don't feel the need to change anyone's mind, right? But you also realize that you can't change anyone's mind. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever engaged in social media debates. I did back in like high school, like when Facebook first came out. But I very quickly learned that is not fulfilling, does not fill your spirit cup, and you just shouldn't bother. But yeah, so kind of to tie that back into nature. Well, first let me check in on the comments. Alan, we drew charcoal stretches of live nude models. That's awesome. Yeah, one of my friends did that at UVA. She was an art major and she really, really enjoyed learning about it. And Roberta says, I blocked out a very bad trauma I remembered in my 40s. Yeah, so that sounds like, is it, correct me if I'm wrong, that you didn't really realize you blocked it out until your 40s? Or, yeah, I think that's what you mean. But yes, very, very commonly. And I was very aware of my older brother doing it because you would think that we were not raised in the same house. Like the way that he just has blocked everything out. It also helped because his coping mechanism was the computer. He was just in his computer room on the computer. Like, so to be fair, he didn't hear the screaming and fighting. He didn't hear the damage really that was going on. And it worked for him. And so my initial thing was like, I wanted to say, Sean, how do you forget this? How can you forgive this? How, but then I'm like, you know what? He's okay right now. And if he wants to have the ignorance is bliss perspective, eventually, he'll probably not, he'll probably do the therapy route like me, but in the beginning, that's fine. Oh yeah, Adam asked a question. Yeah, great questions, guys. So let's bring it back to a fun fact. I love those. So in 1991, there was this group of scientists in Arizona that constructed I think it was $150 million futuristic biosphere to study different ecosystems. And they were very, very pleased that the trees in this biosphere were growing way more quickly. And they're like, look at this. We've created the optimal conditions. This is wonderful. We're going to re-tree the rainforest, right? But after a while, they realized the trees were all dying before they even reached maturity. And they're baffled, right? Like, what in the world? What's missing? They grew bigger and better and faster than any tree before. What's going on? I would ask if there are any guesses, but I tried to guess when this was presented to me and I couldn't get it. The missing factor in this $150 million futuristic artificial biosphere was wind. Wind, the natural element of air, right? So what happens is in nature, trees are what's called buffeted by wind. So it's kind of like hardening, and the wind sways them back and forth, and they go with it, right? They lean with the rhythm, but in response, they react to that pressure, that agitation by developing a thick skin, a thick bark, right? That literally makes it stronger. Like we say, oh, I got to develop thick skin. Trees do it through wind. And so it creates that thicker bark. It creates deeper roots, and both of those things enhance the stability. So if we can dig deep to our roots, to our connections with other people, then we will be even more in alignment with nature. I think we spend a lot of time and energy trying to stay in this comfortable bubble of our self-made biospheres, right? Because we fear the stresses and challenges that come with change, right? No growth occurs in the comfort zone. They're not compatible. But in reality, all of these things that come up, that's our wind, right? That's our thickening, hardening, like, hey, life happens, but here I am. everybody with PRN has their story of how far they come, and some of y'all might be in the thick of it, and that's okay too. But learn how to bend with the wind and thicken in response instead of just staying stagnant where you are, right? And another beautiful thing about trees is in their root systems, they literally have like communication with other tree roots, and they interact with each other. And I can't remember if this is a certain species of tree or all trees. I want to say it's all trees, but they literally, if one of the trees is sick, is dying, is like, anything, the other roots will siphon nutrients to it and will physically at times support the other root structure, right? And it just shows you how under the surface everything is still connected. Just double checking on the comments. Okay, cool. We are good. So thinking on the I guess plant theme, you want to talk about growth and patience, gardening. I'm still pretty lousy at it. I take care of our succulents, and my partner does pretty much everything else. But he does teach me in the process. And what I have learned is with gardening vegetables or herbs, you have to, like basil's a good example, you have to cut the flowers on top so that the plant responds to that challenge by then growing twice as strong in every direction. So you have to trim it for it to get bigger. And then you eventually have this enormous, full, delicious basil plant. And if your reaction to adversity is to just give up or repeatedly, avoid anything that might challenge you as an obstacle, then you're not going to have that room for growth. You're not going to have that room for strengthening. And it's really important to give yourself that time and patience. And I can say that because I am somebody that used to be a real like impatient naysayer. Like I would almost go as far as to call myself a quitter, especially when I was young. Like I quit ballet like day 2. And when my teacher asked why, I told her I only did it because of the costumes. And I realized we didn't get costumes until the very end. And that was just not worth my commitment. I was like 5. Like I knew at 5 that I was like, that's not going to be for me, but I will take that costume if I paid my tuition already. So yeah, funny story. But I was kind of a quitter. And like I'll say I had a very supportive mother when she was alive that let me do that. Like she let me try everything and stick with what I liked. And I stuck with soccer and I stuck with swimming and I was into sports. Okay. So I didn't do whatever else. But I let myself be challenged. I let myself grow in all the different directions. I think probably the most obvious example that I've seen in patience and persistence is my therapist that I'm seeing now. Been seeing her 6 months, 7 months, a while, every single week. And I've experienced the breakthroughs and the growth that I was waiting for with the myriad of other therapists I had already tried and spoken with. I find it easy to connect with just about anyone. I find it very difficult for certain people to connect with me. And so, yeah, I went through probably a dozen therapists before finding Ileana. But now that I found her, I finally was able to commit and go in it with full force and just be like, you're undoing 30 years of pain and trauma. Even 6 months of therapy is not enough to get all that out. I'm the type of person who genuinely believes everyone in the universe needs therapy, let alone when you're overcoming something, let alone if you have a trauma, right? And so, yeah, it's been life-changing. But I will say, I therapist hopped. I was like, my mom used to be a church hopper. I was a therapist hopper because I was just like, not really, no, doesn't get me. Or they would say one thing and I'd just be like, I don't like them. So who knows? Maybe I just wasn't even ready to change. Maybe if I stuck with it before, I was in a different place. Who knows? But I was patient, and I'm still patient now. am not where I want to be, but I am miles and miles and miles ahead of where I've been. And I'm really proud of that. And I want you guys to be too. Even watching this is something, because you're learning. I hope you're learning, you're engaging, you're having community here. So let's see, what else about patience? The other example was, okay, so like gardening seeds. There's an even longer step with that, which again, I didn't realize. I'm just watching him do all of these like crazy gardening maneuvers, like, what in the world? And then in the back of my mind, no wonder I never was good at it. Like, that's a lot of commitment. But you plant them indoors to start. They get little skinny greens, looks like grass. Then you have to put them on the deck for a few hours a day. And then you have to bring them in. And then you put them in a pot on the deck for a few weeks to harden the plant. It's like with the trees in the wind that hardens the plant. And then you plant it into the ground. And it was like a month process. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, you mean you don't just do like seed, water, soil magic? Yeah. But the fruits of our labors have been awesome. We got some yummy tomatoes. We had a peach tree. It was delicious. We've eaten every single peach off of it. But yeah, it's been a really fun learning experience. But patience is the crucial part of gardening, of therapy, of life. We're in a world of instant gratification, where if I don't know something, what do? You pick up your phone and you just look it up quick. If you need directions, we're very attached to technology, to our devices, which makes us very removed from the world. I think there's a saying, everything works better when it's unplugged once in a while, including you. So I'm going to be doing that actually over Labor Day weekend. That's the one in September, right? I get it mixed up with Memorial Day. But I'll be going to a yoga festival and camping there for the first time. I've been, but never camped. And so I'm really just immersing myself. And like, I probably won't even bring my phone with me, just to disconnect and restart and revamp and connect with nature. And it's in the mountains. I'm going to be camping and sharing a like latrine with people. I don't know what to expect. It'll be wonderful though. So don't be afraid to slow down in life. Just pause. I think nothing makes me realize how attached I am to my phone than when it dies, because you do this aimless thing where like, I know it's dead and I'm working beside me, but I'll just do this and be like, oh, it's dead. I must have done that 10 times in like an hour the other day. And I was just like, why am I habitually checking something that's not even on? Excuse me. Like, it makes no sense. So sorry, that was a little bit of a, as Jane says, conversation whiplash, but just wanted to include that, because I just feel like it's a wonderful resource, and I love that it brings us together. This is a perfect example of that. And just don't live on it, or if you do, make it a happy way to live, where you're just spreading the positivity and the love. Let's see. Oh, I wrote creative destruction. Ooh, okay. So kind of with the whole in line of patience and building, right? We talked about how we detox, how we're going to get rid of our filters, but now we're talking about how we rebuild, right? How we strengthen, how we harden like those trees and grow full in every direction like the basil, even if our tops get trimmed off. So fun fact, yoga actually increases muscle mass by up to 20%. So if you wonder why you see all these, big NFL players practicing yoga and stuff, it's because it literally makes them stronger. Yes, yoga can be a workout in itself to get you stronger, but the reason that the athletes like it is because it's therapeutically stretching their muscles, so they have the ability, like that basil, to then grow in other directions, right? You break down the fibers a little bit. That's when you get sore, right? The buildup of just that tension in the muscle, and then it builds back again even better than it was. And so it's definitely a fascinating phenomenon that, it's an ebb and flow, right? It's nature and it's nurture. It's building things, but breaking them down at the same time. and just recognizing which needs to be which, right? And that's easier said than done sometimes, for sure. I'm checking out your comments real quick. Aw, thanks for being open and honest. Yeah, it took me a while to be as comfortable, I think, in being as direct and honest as I am, because I think I was a little bit worried that like that I would be judged by a person that abandoned me as a child. Like, why do I care? Why am I protecting that reputation? Nah, no thanks. It's my time. I've got a story and I'm going to tell it whether they like it or not. Alan, unfortunately, I was a therapist hopper too. Yeah, I get it. A therapist is probably the hardest thing to find, like a good one that works for you, right? And that's not to say that like, a therapist is either good or bad. It's who they are and who you are, which obviously both are very, very different, right? Like I for example, exclusively see female therapists because I feel safer with them. And like I can express more, like maybe it's safer to cry or whatever. I also just think they're more trustworthy because of my own, relationship, mom and then dad. So yeah, I can relate to that, Alan, but I would encourage you to certainly keep trying if you can find like different people, or I mean, hey, what you're doing with the PRN stuff is wonderful, right? Even that alone is therapy in a way. Right? You're like, I feel myself even having these talks is therapeutic because I'm preaching to myself as well. Like I am not the guru who has it all completely figured out yet. Right? I'm growing, I'm getting there. But I think that's what it's all about. It's the journey. And I think that you can find the right therapist if you're patient enough to try. And I do know there's a lot of good like free resources in Charlotte that are affordable. You've probably tried, a lot of them, but just encouraging you. A good one actually, and I'm not sure if you're religious, but even if you're not, they have free counselors there. That's one of the last things my mother wrote to me in a letter was like, please lean on other people, your brothers, your family, your friends, your counselors, your therapists. And then in parentheses, she wrote, also, you can find this in church for free. And that wasn't her way of saying, I want you to go and praise God. That was saying, I know you're going to let money be an obstacle and you can still find the same listening ear there, and sure, maybe they'll throw God into some of the counseling that they give you, but ultimately it's not really about that. It's just having that safe, confidential person to express yourself with. So that's a nice, option too, and much easier to hop around. For sure, because you wouldn't, I guess, spend as much money. Oh, PRN meets Alan's need big time. I no longer need a therapist. That's awesome. Yeah, and really, like, I first discovered PRN virtually during COVID, and it was like my therapy too. I just really enjoyed tuning into videos and engaging in the comments and feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling appreciated and supported by this amazing community, right? And I think that's awesome. This can be your therapist, right? Some people exercise like crazy and that's their therapy, clear their head, whatever. I'll never understand distance runners. Have you ever seen a runner that's like looks happy? It's just like, getting through it. But to each his own. I wish I could run a marathon, but yes, I digress. So let's see. Oh, here's a great one. A good quote that my partner gave me. A woman can never set foot in the same stream twice because not only does the stream change, but the woman does as well. So the lesson here is to appreciate every single solitary moment because you'll never get it back. You're no younger than you are right now. Something like that. I don't know. Every picture that is taken of you is when you were younger. I don't know. There's some funny quote. I need to stop listening to so many stand-up comedians because I mix up the punchlines. But yeah, basically appreciating these moments rather than viewing them through your lens or your filter of how things used to be, right? Like if I go back to the stream that I almost died in when I was 11, trying to cross it in a hurricane, it's going to be so different, right? One, there won't be a hurricane, but two, I am on every level, including cellular, a different person than I was. And it won't be the same moment. So you just got to live it and appreciate it for what it has, or for what it is. And that also creates this like kind of nostalgia. Like, do you remember Hot Pockets? They were the greatest things in sliced bread growing up. I loved a Hot Pocket. It was like my favorite. But have you ever had a Hot Pocket as an adult? I mean, they're not bad, but like, I don't know, you really build it up in your mind, right? You're like so excited for that first bite, like when you're a kid and it just melts in your mouth and it's so delicious. And then you take a bite and you realize the ingredients taste like 90% cardboard. And before you know it, the whole memory is kind of tainted. Not knocking Hot Pockets. I'm just saying, as a kid, that was like, you might as well have been filet mignon, you know? I loved them. Same goes for like eating an entire funnel cake at the fair when you're kids, or candy all night on Halloween. We know that our bodies can't metabolize that quickly anymore. Like at 31, I cannot eat the way I used to because I know I will feel physically terrible. Not guilty for the calories, nothing. It's just my body gets overwhelmed by the calories or the, whatever I'm doing to it. And then eventually you kind of feel bad and you need to be rolled to bed, I'm not a kid anymore. So I find ways that in this now moment, I can channel that. I still love to indulge and dig in, but I just don't have as much. I just stop when I'm full instead of eating to 120% like always. So you can find ways to kind of create that fun in adulthood too, like dressing up your dessert. You can have fruit and whipped cream. You can dip strawberries in chocolate or sugar, however you want. I actually saw a friend of mine posted a cake that she made and the cake itself was a watermelon. So it was a watermelon covered in like Cool Whip, I guess, with berries on top. And it was the coolest cake I've ever seen. I totally want to make a watermelon cake now. And it's all the deliciousness, but you don't have to feel bad or, like you just ate a truck and then you can't physically move, because that's how I feel sometimes. But basically, marveling at your own evolution, at the capacity that we as humans have to evolve and to grow and change, always for the better, right? I don't even want to say hopefully, always for the better. Even if you can't see it right at that time. I had a couple of years straight that I was just like, this is not going to get better. There's no way. Absolutely not. And then I look at where I am now. And if you're not there, you'll get there. Be patient, right? You're a growing little beautiful basil plant. And instead of replicating something that you've done before with these expectations, like, oh, when I was a kid, it was the best, but now it sucks. That just leads to disappointment. You don't need the expectations. Just approach every moment with an open mind and excited about it regardless. And to loop it back in with our gratitude theme, gratitude is not taking any moments for granted. A perfect example is that for the first time in my life, I have a partner who contributes financially to groceries. So it's not just me. And that enables me to not have to look at every single price tag before I make a purchase. I've never done that in my life. And that realization, that almost like freedom, I'm talking within reason, but regardless, that freedom, I used to check the price on everything. And sometimes even like 50 cents would make me not get something I needed for a recipe because I wanted to save. But that gift now that I have in that financial support, and of course he's way more than that. He's like my rock. But just even something as small as that, I literally, every time we go grocery shopping, reflect on it and say it to Adam. I'm like, I'm just so grateful that we can buy the food that we want. I'm so grateful. And do I still love good sale? I mean, heck yeah. I'm a total soccer mom who, like, if something is on sale, I will literally shove the entire shelf into my cart. As a matter of fact, I just bought my first razor in like 5 years. Oh yeah, I bought like 10. But yeah, let me just check in on the comments as we're wrapping up here a little. The woman in the stream, yeah. Aw, glad to hear you guys interacting. So the whole point of this can maybe be surmised in or a ship at bay is beautiful, but that's not what ships are for. So knowing your purpose, right? The rain doesn't ask the clouds how heavy they are. The rain doesn't ask when the clouds are ready for it to be released. They accumulate and they get together and they fall because they know who they are and they know what they're there for. And they know they're vital to life. And you are too. So be like the rain. Know your intentions and your actions and your behavior will follow. Keep your eye on the prize, right? Our prize is wellness. Our prize is recovery. And then eventually your prize becomes helping other people. And that's what I get to do now, talking with you guys. And it's amazing. In the medical field, we say, see one, do one, teach one. This is like a surgery, basically. So you witness one, then you observe, and then you perform the surgery. Then you teach someone else to do the surgery. It's a really cool, kind of system. And I think that's how life is too sometimes, right? And emotions are a beautiful thing. They're vital to life because they enable us to identify when we are not living in alignment with our values. So emotions are wonderful and they're beautiful. And I know that there are negative emotions, but feel those too. Love yourself through it. That's one of my favorite expressions. Whenever I didn't like someone or if someone picked on me at school, my mom would just say, love them through it. Love them through it. Kill them with kindness. Pray for them. Any of those number of things, right? And I had to learn how to healthily control my emotions rather than the other way around. And it's a skill. It's a lifelong process. And it's a work in progress, just like all of us. So learn from nature. Appreciate it. Protect it. Seriously. Defend the environment like the earth is your mama because she is. Grow with the earth, not against it. So wrapping up here, I'm going to put on the warm line, if I can find it. Yes, this is the warm line. Awesome listening ear. I actually just gave this to a friend this week on Facebook. She literally was just like, I need a listening ear. And I posted it and she called and had wonderful things to say. So definitely give them a call if you need someone to talk to. And then as our last little wrap up, I'm going to show you my show and tell. This is a MaMatt, M-A-R-M-A. I'll put that in the chat if I can. A MaMatt. And so that is MaMatt. So this is an acupressure activating device, kind of. So like if you think of acupuncture, that is treating acupressure points. And this is something you stand on, believe it or not. So this is where the balls of your feet go. And it's really like plastic, rubbery type of thing. $10 on Amazon. But you stand on it. I like to do it when I'm brushing my teeth because I get 2 solid minutes. I'm standing still. And I'm not going to lie, it hurts in the beginning. Not a lot, but it's uncomfortable because your feet are like, we neglect our feet so much, y'all. We're walking on them all the time. We don't ever elevate them. Like, we're just really bad to our feet. And that's not even counting the women who wear high heels. So when you stand on this, your feet and your spine will wake up and realign. And I can't even go into like the myriad of benefits that there are, but you will feel amazing. Like if you have back pain, if you have plantar fasciitis, any number of things. I even have one of those blow up exercise balls with these on it. So I sit on that, I bounce on that. I'll stretch my back out over it. And it's very therapeutic, very good. Love it. Like, can't recommend it enough. It's just simple MaMatt, and I don't even know the brand. They have a ton of them. So yeah, just look into one of these. They are so cool. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. You've got the warm line right there. I'll put up the welcome desk right quick. Here we go. That's the welcome desk number. As always, if you have questions or comments, you can shoot me a message. You can comment on this video. I do come back and look through them. So hopefully I will catch up with some of you on the replay. And thank you guys for tuning in so much. stay safe, stay healthy, take care, be well, and yeah, have a great rest of your week.